In this video, we're going to talk about the digestive system. Just as an overview, the digestive system is made up of all organisms in our body in charge of breaking down food. It's also important to know the function of the digestive system. The digestive system has three main jobs. It breaks down food into smaller molecules, which is related to our first unit of the year, Chemistry of Life. It allows us to absorb that food into our circulatory system, which we'll talk about later, but for now just know that's our bloodstream, so your food that you're eating can actually be used by your body cells. And it eliminates waste so that you don't get poisoned by the toxins that are in some foods. This picture just shows you the organs we're going to be talking about in this video. These organs come together to make up your digestive system. There are two types of digestion that take place throughout the digestive system. One is called mechanical digestion, and that's when food you're eating is physically being broken down into smaller parts. And the other is chemical digestion. This is when the food is actually being changed. Usually this happens because of enzymes, or it could be because of stomach acid. Step 1 of the digestive system takes place in the mouth. The chemical digestion has to do with the saliva. In your mouth you have salivary glands, which in this picture are represented over here. Your salivary glands make saliva, and saliva contains an enzyme amylase, and you're going to need to know that amylase breaks down sugars. That's really important. Also taking place in your mouth is the mechanical digestion, using your teeth to chew things into smaller pieces. Once all your food has been chewed up, it's going to travel from your mouth to your stomach through a tube called the esophagus. The esophagus runs from your throat all the way down to your stomach. Food moves down your stomach not because of gravity. It's not being pulled down, because you could swallow food when you were laying on your side and it would still go down to your stomach. Food moves down by a process called peristalsis. This is basically when muscles inside your esophagus contract and push the food along till it gets to your stomach. So again, this is why you could be laying on your side, take a sip of water, and it would still go down to your stomach. These muscle contractions literally are pushing the food down. So looking at an individual food, if you have a contraction or your esophagus gets smaller at the location right before your food, it's going to push it further down. Think of it as if you had a tube or something and you were squeezing the tube. Stuff is going to flow out of it the other end. Then once it's through the esophagus, it enters the stomach. The stomach is a muscular pouch, so it's made entirely of muscles, and both mechanical and chemical digestion take place here. Mechanical takes place because the walls of your stomach contract and kind of seem like a washing machine or dishwasher. The acid inside the stomach is whirling around, and as a result, little pieces of food are getting broken apart. Again, that's mechanical digestion. Chemical digestion occurs too, though, and it happens for two reasons. One is your stomach is actually full of hydrochloric acid, and this acid can break down food chemically. Your stomach is also full of an enzyme called pepsin, and pepsin specifically breaks down proteins. If you think back to our unit on Chemistry of Life, you'll remember enzymes speed up reactions, but enzymes are specific, which means they can only break down one thing. So pepsin in the stomach is how proteins get broken down. One important feature of your stomach is that it has a special lining of mucus that protects your stomach, because hydrochloric acid is a really strong acid. If you had it in your hand and got some directly on your skin, it would actually burn right through your skin. So this protective coating of your stomach prevents you from burning a hole right through your stomach. We're going to talk about different problems that can occur if this lining gets worn away and is no longer there. But for now, just know that after the stomach, food travels to the small intestine. There is some mechanical digestion in your small intestine, because as, again, your small intestine muscles contract, they break up food. But more important is the chemical digestion that occurs, because your small intestine has a lot of enzymes in it. These enzymes are made in the pancreas and liver, but they get released into the small intestine, so food never enters the pancreas. The pancreas is going to make amylase, which is also found in your mouth and breaks down carbohydrates. It's going to make trypsin, which breaks down proteins, and lipase, which breaks down lipids or fats. It's important to know these enzymes and that they're located in the small intestine. The liver makes bile, and bile basically helps break down fats, because if you've ever put oil in water, you know water and oil don't mix. But when you add bile to the mixture, everything's able to mix together, and then lipase can do its job of breaking down fats. The gallbladder, which we're not going to talk too much about, is an organ or an accessory gland that stores bile that's made by the liver. So your liver is making a lot of bile and it needs a storage place. That's the gallbladder. It's really confusing to call your small intestine the small intestine, because it's actually a lot longer and bigger in a lot of ways than the large intestine. The small intestine is all this red right here. It gets its name because it actually has a really small circumference. So going around, the small intestine would be like that, whereas the large intestine, which we're going to talk about next, is a lot bigger around. But lengthwise, small intestine is actually longer. Before we talk about the large intestine, though, there's one really important function of the small intestine. The small intestine does that job of the digestive system of absorbing nutrients. You take in food, but you need it to get to all the cells in your body. And how does that happen? Well, the nutrients get absorbed through villi. And villi are these tiny finger-like projections that make up the entire inside of your small intestine. So if you zoomed in on one villi, basically what you see is that if food is traveling down your small intestine, it's going to come into contact with these villi and enter the blood vessel network. It enters through capillaries and then is no longer part of the digestive system, but is able to run through your circulatory system, which we'll talk about later. But this happens at villi in your small intestine. Once all the good stuff's been absorbed in your small intestine, material travels to your large intestine. And basically your large intestine is going to have two major roles. The first is it's going to take back any water, any extra water that maybe your body could use. So your body needs a lot of water. But it doesn't get reabsorbed or taken back into your cells until the large intestine. Then what it does is the large intestine produces or gets rid of waste. And the waste, called feces generally, enters the rectum and is eliminated from the body. It's important not to confuse elimination, getting rid of feces, with excretion, getting rid of liquid waste. So we've gone through the digestive system, and these are just some important things you need to know in case you missed it. You need to make sure you know all the steps of the digestive system, what type of digestion can occur there, and if there are any enzymes that exist there. So if you need to write down this information from this slide, pause the video here and record it. The same goes for this slide. It basically gives you location, and then maybe not the enzymes, but it tells you what happens here, which is important. And lastly, pause the video here if you don't understand the role that these different glands play in your digestive system. To check yourself, I want you to either fill in the boxes or label A through K these different organs. This picture is made up of both organs and glands, so make sure you pay attention carefully to where the arrow is pointing. If you can't do this, and you also don't have all that summary information, go back and watch the video. Otherwise, this is all you need to know for the digestive system.